Toyota's Prius Plus enables larger families to also join the hybrid-powered, tax-efficient, clean and frugal fraternity. With citycar-style emissions and MPV-style versatility, it's the kind of people carrier that'll appeal if, for you, 7-seat transport must tread lightly on our polluted planet. In an age when we've got hybrids, sports cars, SUVs and super minis, the lack of this technology in an MPV people carrier might seem rather surprising, especially from Toyota, a brand with nearly 2 decades of hybrid experience. There's a reason for this, of course. Hybrid car design usually has to find space for the siting of a huge battery pack, normally located just over the rear axle, exactly where you'd want to place third-row accommodation in a 7-seater MPV. Which is why we never had a hybrid capable of taking more than 5 people, until the launch of this car, the Prius Plus. It exists thanks to better battery technology, the kind we've all pushed for with the need for longer-lasting laptops and smartphones. Now, these use small but powerful lithium-ion units, more advanced versions of which are starting to replace the big, heavy nickel-metal hydride batteries traditionally used in hybrid cars. Now, these batteries usually had to be sited at the back of the car due to their size, but the more compact lithium-ion packs don't have to be. Which means that in this Prius Plus, the first non-plug-in hybrid Toyota to use this technology, the battery can be mounted between the 2 front seats, freeing up space for the rearward third seating row that makes this Europe's first full hybrid 7-seat vehicle. Let's try it. If you haven't yet had the hybrid experience, it can still surprise. It does me, even 15 years on after the day I first fired a Prius into life and heard precisely nothing. At first, as you push the little blue CVT gearbox lever into D, hybrids are almost always automatic, and ease away, the silence is a little disconcerting and you're tempted to wonder whether something might be wrong. But no, this is the silent sound of milk float mobility. Now, the car will run on electric power alone for, well, just over a mile, provided the batteries are fully charged and you don't exceed 31 miles an hour. And you can select manual motion via this EV button on the centre console here. And that'll mean that the engine won't cut in unless you're particularly aggressive with the throttle. Now, once the 1.8 litre petrol power plant does cut in, a combined engine and electric motor output of 134 brake horsepower means that it's possible to push on a bit, 0 to 60 occupying 11.3 seconds, on the way to a rather embarrassingly modest top speed of 103 miles an hour. Still, it's unfair to complain, because you're getting the same kind of performance punch as would be delivered by this engine when fitted to a normal Prius hatch, a car that's a hefty 145 kilograms lighter. To achieve ultimate performance, you'll need to have selected Power, the most aggressive of the 3 drive modes the hybrid system makes available. Here, response to throttle inputs is boosted by 25% for those times when you've a need for frantic speed, perhaps when you've left dinner burning in the oven or you're running late for the school play. Unless such a scenario applies, though, I wouldn't have thought that many Prius Plus owners are going to want to drive like this very often. This, quite apart from the fact that this decimates the frugal fuel returns that presumably prompted purchase in the first place, this car feels ragged and noisy when you thrash it. Better to chill out a bit and relax, either with the system in normal mode or, better still, with the eco button pressed. And in this form, then the response to the throttle is softened and even the air conditioning tweaked for ultimate economy. While you're in this frame of mind, it's probably worth snicking the auto gear lever from D into B, a setting that will increase the amount of regenerative energy the hybrid synergy drive system can harvest when you're cruising or braking. Now, that'll charge up the batteries more quickly so that they'll be better charged and readier for those low-speed urban moments when the hybrid system will want to automatically return you to electric-only power. So that you can more easily check out what's powering or being charged by what, there's an eco-drive monitor on the Toyota Touch dash display screen so that you can find out at any given time the energy flow through the hybrid system. As for ride and handling, well, you probably won't be expecting this Toyota to number among the ranks of more sporting people carriers. Which is true enough. The electric speed-sensitive power steering and easy manoeuvrability have instead been targeted at making this vehicle perfectly suited for the kind of town work that gets the best from the hybrid powertrain. That said, though, an awful lot of work has gone into the driving dynamics on offer here. Take the pitch and bounce control system. As the car moves at speed over undulations, dips and little hills, then almost imperceptible little additions or reductions in torque are made to compensate and keep the car level. And that's a little touch you'll appreciate when you're on a long journey and the kids in the back are starting to feel queasy. The characteristic triangle silhouette means that you'd recognise this as a member of the Prius family. So you get the familiar arched roofline and neat fastback rear end in a design that's 30mm wider and 85mm higher than Toyota's trend-setting hybrid hatch, but only 135mm longer. Not enough, you might surmise, to properly accommodate third-row seating, ready and able to take two fully sized adults over long distances in the way that, say, a Ford Galaxy or a Volkswagen Charan might be able to manage. You'd be right to think that. They're not too difficult to get to, but the rearmost pair of seats are indeed best left to small kids. Having said that, the standard panoramic glass roof and a thin curved seatback design both combine to mean that a place right in the very rear here isn't quite as claustrophobic as the compact exterior dimensions might lead you to expect. Provided that you're not too tall. Toyota's decision to place each seating row 45mm higher than the one in front certainly gives everyone a good view out, but it also means that headroom can be a tad restricted by the time you get to the very back here. Still, two fully sized adults should just about fit, provided that those in front of them are prepared to make use of the way that their chairs can slide forward. In this well-appointed middle row, there is, as you would expect, an awful lot more room than you get in an ordinary Prius hatch, thanks to three individual chairs that not only slide back and forth, but also fold and can recline by up to 35 degrees for greater comfort on longer journeys. Well, it certainly feels spacious here too, something you'll appreciate once you've adjusted to a fascia that's anything but conventional, with no binnacle in front of the driver. Instead, everything is together on a rather densely packed centre stack with handbrake button, power button, gear selector and air conditioning and stereo controls all in close proximity. It takes a little time to get used to it, but once you have, then everything falls to hand easily enough, and most of the controls that you regularly use can also be functioned from the steering wheel. The digital display at the top of the dashboard here includes one for speed, but you'll hardly ever look at it because the same information is also projected onto the bottom part of the windscreen so that you can more easily keep your eyes on the road. As for cabin storage space, well, if you're aware of the location of the hybrid battery pack here between the front seats, then you might expect a few compromises. In fact, things have been packaged well enough for most family folk not to notice, with big door bins, two glove boxes, and a centre stowage section that can take up to 8 CDs. As for cargo space, well, with all the seats in place, you've got 232 litres of luggage room up to the roof, Not a great deal, though I should point out that there's also a 60-litre white clean space below the boot floor for keeping valuables out of sight or storing wet or dirty gear. Most of the time, though, you'll be travelling with the third row seating folded flat, in which case you'll have up to 784 litres of room to play with. Fold all but the front seats and you can boost that figure to a useful 1,750 litres. Now, there are three main kinds of seven-seater MPV. Compact models like Ford's Grand C-Max or Toyota's own Verso that tend to be priced from around £20,000. Then slightly larger, trendier, lifestyle-orientated people carriers like Ford's S-Max or the Vauxhall Zafira Tourer, mainly priced in the £23,000 to £25,000 bracket. And above these, you've got properly large seven-seat people carriers, models like the Volkswagen Charan and the Seat Alhambra, that tend to mainly sell in the £25,000 to £30,000 category. Now, if I tell you that the Prius Plus is priced between £26,000 and £30,000, yet is only slightly bigger than the smallest of these three categories, then you'll get some idea of the value proposition on offer. Essentially, you're buying a compact people carrier with 7 seats for the price of a large one and being compensated with planet-saving technology beneath the bonnet. Many will see that as a pretty reasonable deal. Unless you regularly transport 7 adults, then you probably won't need the extra third-row seating space of a properly large MPV. Better perhaps to pay the same money as you would for one of those and enjoy the silent hybrid charms of this Prius Plus with its frugal fuel returns and tax-saving emissions. That's Toyota's take anyway. If you agree and you're sold on one of these, then the next step is to decide between the entry-level T4 variant and the range-topping T-Spirit model. Now, it sugars the pill of the highish price to find that both are very well equipped. All Prius Plus models coming with things like alloy wheels, a panoramic roof with an automatic shade, LED daytime running lights, power folding mirrors, the Toyota Touch multimedia system with Bluetooth phone compatibility, and via that you can control a 6-speaker CD stereo. There's a multifunction trip computer, a head-up display that projects your speed and other information onto the inside of the windscreen, a rear-view parking camera, rain-sensing wipers, cruise control, and a hill start assist system to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions. That's quite an equipment list, and it's worth bearing in mind when you're price matching against other more conventional MPVs. Go for the top T-Spirit model and you get further niceties like satellite navigation, leather upholstery, larger, smarter 17-inch alloy wheels, and a glorious 8-speaker JBL sound system with a whole host of multimedia and music library options. Safety-wise, there's Isofix fittings for rear child seats, anti-whiplash head restraints, and twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus a bag for the driver's knee. To hopefully ensure that you'll never have to use all of this stuff, there are, of course, anti-lock brakes. With a brake assist system for emergency stops, you can advertise to following motorists by an automatically activating emergency braking signal. There's also TRC traction control and VSC vehicle stability control. In other words, you're fully covered. Now this is where you'd hope a decision for Prius Plus ownership would be fully vindicated. On paper it certainly should be. After all, when this vehicle's at rest, the engine stops automatically to conserve fuel. In low efficiency driving conditions, such as at start-up or at low to mid-engine speeds, then the EV system automatically cuts in, so that there are no tailpipe emissions of carbon dioxide or NOx. Now, the result of all this cleverness is something of a contradiction in terms. A 1.5-tonne 7-seater people carrier that's capable of being more frugal and cleaner than Toyota's tiny Aygo city car. courtesy of a combined cycle fuel figure of 68.9 miles to the gallon and a CO2 reading of just 96 grams per kilometre. That's if you opt for the entry-level T4 variant I've got here. Go for the top T Spirit model with larger 17-inch alloy wheels for the low rolling resistance tyres, and the figures aren't quite as good. You're talking 64.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 101 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, that might be key to the buying decision, as it means that both the Prius Plus variants are in different tax bands, and only this entry-level T4 qualifies for exemption from the London congestion charge. To put that into perspective, you're talking here about a 7-seat people carrier that's about 15 to 20% cleaner and more frugal than a rival but more conventional 7-seat MPV. Is that enough of a saving to justify this Toyota's higher upfront asking price? Well, assuming that you're looking at a 3 or 4 year ownership period, then it may well be just about. For this Prius Plus, you're talking about an average of about 39 pence per mile to run it, and that's about the same as you'd pay to keep a comparable Vauxhall Zafira Tourer 2-litre CDTI diesel on the road. And if you're a business user, you've the added benefit of escaping the usual 3% surcharge on BIK tax liability that applies to diesels. Early concerns about the Prius system's hybrid complexity and battery durability have been shown to be unfounded by the legions of 300,000-mile private hire vehicles still running without a murmur. The batteries, in fact, are zero maintenance items and are covered by an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Insurance, well, that's Group 16 for both variants on the 1 to 50 scale. The Prius has always been a first choice for eco-minded, frugal families. Now it can deal with rather larger ones, this Prius Plus at last taking hybrid power into 7-seat territory. It isn't especially big or particularly fast or fun to drive, but I'm guessing that won't matter very much to many potential purchasers. At the wheel of one of these, planet-friendly people can proudly parade their green credentials, even if they've a permanently reserved parking space at the local maternity unit. And if you're not of the lentil-eating, sandal-wearing persuasion, well, you may still find plenty that'll impress. City car economy matched with 7-seating sense. Yes, there's a premium to pay for the clever technology, but in return, you're rewarded with an effortless and smoothly silent means of family travel that's very different to the experience you'd get in the kind of clattery diesel people carrier that would otherwise be on your shopping list. This, then, is the Prius of people carriers, a timely Toyota for the more thoughtful family.